Marcus Rodriguez was desperate. Sick child, bills piling up, about to lose his house. When Steph Curry got into his Honda Civic one rainy morning, he never imagined that 45 minutes of conversation would change everything. What happened next left an entire family crying, but not for the reason you might think. The alarm clock rang at 5:45 in the morning with that irritating sound that Marcus Rodriguez had known for 3 years. The room was dark and cold in Oakland, California, and the sound of rain hitting the window of the small apartment seemed to promise another difficult day ahead. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes and got up slowly, trying not to make noise. His back ached, the result of spending 14 hours a day sitting in the driver's seat of a 2015 Honda Civic that had seen better days. At 34 years old, he felt like he was twice that age. From the next room, he heard the familiar sound that made his heart tighten every day. The dry, persistent cough of Miguel, his 8-year-old son. It was followed by the sound of the nebulizer turning on. Elena, his wife, was already awake, taking care of the boy before the alarm even rang. Marcus dressed quickly in the same faded blue polo shirt he wore to work. The fabric was beginning to fray at the edges, but it was the only professional shirt he had. While putting on his worn sneakers, he could hear Elena talking softly with Miguel in the next room. "Mommy, why do I have to use this again?" Miguel's fragile voice came through the thin wall. "It's so you can breathe better, mi amor. Just a few more minutes." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. 3 years since Miguel was diagnosed with severe chronic asthma. 3 years of sleepless nights, rushes to the emergency room, and medical bills that seemed to grow faster than he could pay them. He left the room and found Elena sitting on the edge of Miguel's bed, holding the nebulizer mask to their son's small face. Their eyes met, and Elena discreetly pointed to the kitchen table where there was a pile of mail. Marcus walked over and saw the envelope he was already expecting. Another letter from Wells Fargo about the mortgage delay, 3 months behind. $7,200 in debt. The threat of foreclosure was becoming more and more real. "Daddy?" Miguel called him with his voice muffled by the mask. "Hi, champ." Marcus approached and ruffled his son's hair. "How are you feeling today?" "Better. Mommy said maybe I can go to school today." "That's great, son." Marcus forced a smile. "Daddy's going to work really hard today so we can buy that video game you want, okay?" Miguel smiled behind the mask, and Marcus felt his heart break a little more. He knew there was no money for video games. There was barely money for the medications that kept Miguel breathing. Elena followed Marcus to the small kitchen. She looked exhausted. She worked part-time as a cleaner in an office in downtown Oakland, but even so spent most of her time taking care of Miguel. "Another hospital bill came," she whispered, showing an envelope from Kaiser Permanente. $47,000, Marcus. How are we going to pay this?" Marcus took the bill and saw the total amount of accumulated medical debt. Emergencies, hospitalizations, medications not covered by the basic insurance they could barely afford. It was a number that seemed impossible for someone who earned $300 on a good day driving Uber. "I'll figure it out," he said, hugging Elena. "I'll work double shifts this week, maybe even triple." "Marcus, you barely sleep as it is. Yesterday you got home at 2 in the morning and left at 6. This isn't life." "It's temporary," he lied. They both knew it wasn't temporary. It was their new reality. Marcus kissed Elena's forehead and then leaned down to kiss Miguel, who was finishing his nebulizer treatment. "See you later, champ. Be good to Mommy." "Daddy? Will, you be back for dinner?" Marcus hesitated. He planned to work late, but didn't want to disappoint his son. "I'll try, okay?" Outside, the The fine rain typical of Bay Area winter was wetting the streets. Marcus ran to his Honda Civic parked on the street. The car had a crack in the windshield that he couldn't afford to fix, and the engine made a strange noise that worried him. But it was his livelihood. Without the car, there was no way to work. He started the engine and waited a few seconds for the car to warm up, looking at Miguel's photo taped to the dashboard. It was from 2 years ago, before the crises became more frequent. Miguel was smiling, holding a basketball that was almost as big as he was. Marcus grabbed his phone and opened the Uber app. Because of the rain, there were few drivers online, which meant surge pricing. It was an opportunity to make more money. The first ride appeared immediately. Pickup at Oakland Medical Center. Destination to Emeryville. Marcus accepted and left through the wet streets of Oakland. The passenger was a nurse named Sarah, who was getting off the night shift. She got in the car looking as tired as Marcus felt. "Long night?" asked Marcus, trying to be cordial. "Yes, very. And you? Already working since early?" "Just started, but I'll go until late. Need to take advantage of the rain. The rates are better." Sarah looked at Marcus through the rearview mirror. "How many hours do you work per day?" "About 14, 15, sometimes more." "Wow! Why so much?" Marcus hesitated. He didn't usually talk about his personal life with passengers, but there was something in Sarah's gentle voice that made him open up a little. "My son has chronic asthma. The medical bills, they're heavy." Sarah was silent for a moment. "I have 2 children, too. I know how it is. The healthcare system in this country is cruel to working families." When they arrived at the destination, Sarah gave a $10 tip in the app, more than Marcus normally received. "Take care of yourself," she said before getting out. "And be careful in traffic. Your son needs you." Marcus thanked her and stayed parked for a moment in the parking lot, watching Sarah enter her building. He grabbed his phone to see if there were new rides and saw a notification that made his heart race. Pickup at Chase Center in San Francisco. Chase Center was the Golden State Warriors arena. Marcus had been a fan since childhood. He used to watch games with his father before he passed away 5 years ago. Even in the most difficult moments, basketball had always been his escape. He drove across the Bay Bridge, paying the $7 toll. Money he felt pain spending, but it was necessary to get to work. The rain was diminishing, and he could see the sun trying to appear between the gray clouds. Arriving at Chase Center, Marcus felt small. There were black SUVs and luxury cars everywhere. His Honda Civic with the cracked windshield looked pathetic in that environment. He parked in the designated area for app drivers and waited. He looked again at Miguel's photo on the dashboard and said a silent prayer, the same one he said every day. "Please, help me be strong for him." His phone vibrated with a message from the passenger. "Coming out now. Blue Honda Civic, right?" "That's right," Marcus replied. He had no idea that in the next few minutes, his life would change forever. Marcus saw a man exit the Chase Center training complex walking in his direction. He wore a simple Warriors hoodie, cap pulled down covering part of his face, and carried a black sports backpack. Nothing ostentatious. He looked like just another arena employee. The man checked the Honda Civic's license plate and waved to Marcus before opening the passenger door. "Hey, how's it going?" he said, getting in the car with a warm smile. "All good, thanks," replied Marcus, adjusting the rearview mirror. That's when he saw the passenger's face clearly for the first time. Marcus froze. His heart raced. He blinked several times, thinking he was seeing things. "You are..." Marcus stammered. "You are Steph Curry?" The man laughed, that characteristic smile that Marcus had seen 1,000 times on TV. "Yes, that's me. How's it going, man?" What's your name? Marcus was trembling slightly. Marcus Rodriguez. Man, I can't believe it. You're my favorite player since forever. Really? How long have you been following the team? Since the 90s, when I was a kid. My dad used to take me to see games at Oakland Coliseum Arena. We cheered, even when you guys were bad. Steph laughed. Ah, the tough years. I remember. But look where we got to, right? Marcus still couldn't believe he was having a casual conversation with Steph Curry. He entered the destination in the GPS. Atherton, one of the richest cities in the Bay Area. Atherton, right? The trip will be about 45 minutes with this traffic. Perfect. I can relax a little. Training was tough today. As they left the Chase Center parking lot, Marcus tried to process the situation. He was driving Steph Curry. The Steph Curry, the guy he watched religiously every game, even when he arrived exhausted from work. "Do you play basketball?" asked Steph, noticing a small Warriors keychain hanging from the rearview mirror. "Used to play in high school. Was even good, you know? Dreamed of being professional, but..." Marcus shrugged. Life took other directions. How so? "Ah, married. Early, had a kid. Responsibilities came fast, but I don't regret it. My son is everything to me." Steph leaned forward, genuinely interested. "How old is he?" 8. His name is Miguel. He's my champion." They took Highway 101 heading south. Traffic was moderate, and Marcus took the opportunity to ask some basketball questions he had always wanted to ask. Steph answered everything with patience and genuine interest. "Do you like driving Uber?" asked Steph after a few minutes. Marcus hesitated. It was a simple question, but the answer was complicated. "It's flexible. I can work as many hours as I want. I need this flexibility because of my son." "Because of?" Marcus saw a sign indicating the Kaiser Permanente Medical Center at the next exit. Involuntarily, his fist tightened on the steering wheel. It was at that hospital network that Miguel received treatment. Steph noticed the change in Marcus's expression. "Everything okay, man?" Marcus was silent for a few seconds, looking at the hospital through the window. So many nights spent in that building, holding Miguel while he struggled to breathe. "My son, he has severe chronic asthma," Marcus finally said, his voice getting lower. "Since he was 5 years old. It's complicated." Steph straightened up in his seat, his expression becoming more serious. "Damn, man, that must be really difficult." "It is." Marcus swallowed hard. "You have no idea how desperate it is to see your child struggling, to breathe, and not be able to do anything. The crises come out of nowhere. He can be playing and suddenly starts coughing. His lips turn blue." Marcus's voice began to choke up. "How many times have you gone to the hospital?" "I've lost count. Just this year, there were 7 emergency room visits, 3 hospitalizations. The last one was last month. He spent 5 days in the pediatric ICU." Steph was quiet, absorbing the information. "And does health insurance cover it?" Marcus gave a bitter laugh. "Part of it. I have the most basic plan I can afford. But the special medications, the more advanced treatments, that's on us." "How much do you owe?" $47,000 just from the hospital, besides the monthly medications that cost more than $800. Steph shook his head, clearly shocked. "And how are you dealing with this?" "Barely managing," Marcus admitted. "I work 15 hours a day. My wife works part-time, but she needs to be available to take care of Miguel when he has crises. We're 3 months behind on the house mortgage." They passed through Palo Alto, approaching Atherton. The houses kept getting bigger and more luxurious. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why didn't you ask me for anything?" Most people, when they tell me a story like this, are expecting me to offer help. Marcus looked at Steph through the rearview mirror. "Because that's not why I'm telling you. Sorry if it sounded like I was asking for something. It's just that I rarely have someone to talk about this with. My wife is already overloaded. I don't want to put more weight on her. And I don't have close friends. I don't have time for friendships." "So, you carry everything alone?" "Yes. Sometimes I stay in the car after getting home, just sitting in the dark, trying to find a solution. I've thought about selling the car, but without it, I can't work. I've thought about moving to a cheaper place, but I don't want to take Miguel out of his school." Steph was listening intently, without interrupting. "You know what kills me the most?" continued Marcus. "Miguel asked me last week if he's going to get better, and I didn't know what to answer. The doctors say that with adequate treatment, he can have a normal life. But adequate treatment costs more than I make." They were arriving at Steph's property gate. Marcus could see an impressive mansion through the iron gates. "We're here," said Marcus, stopping the car. But Steph didn't get out immediately. "Marcus, turn off the engine. I want to continue talking." Steph remained in the back seat, while Marcus turned off the engine. Steph's mansion was visible through the iron gates, an immense property with impeccable gardens that contrasted dramatically with Marcus's modest apartment in Oakland. "You can continue telling me," said Steph, his voice soft and full of compassion. "I want to better understand your situation." Marcus turned in his seat to face Steph. There was something in the way the player looked at him, without rush, without judgment, that made him feel comfortable opening his heart completely. "I met my wife Elena at a quinceañera party in Oakland 12 years ago," began Marcus, a sad smile crossing his face. "She was laughing with her friends and I thought, I need to meet this girl. It took me 2 hours to gather the courage to talk to her." Steph smiled. "And did it work?" "It worked. We dated for 3 years before getting married. Those were the happiest years of my life. Elena worked as a medical receptionist. I worked in construction. We weren't rich, but we were building something together." "And when Miguel was born?" Marcus's face lit up. "Man, it was the best day of my life. He was born early in the morning, and when the nurse put him in my arms, I had never felt such intense love. Elena was exhausted, but radiant. We stayed awake all night, just watching him breathe." The irony of that last phrase hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. Steph noticed. "When did the breathing problems start?" "At 5 years old. A normal night, he was playing with his toy cars on the living room carpet. Suddenly, he started coughing. At first we thought it was just a cold, but the cough got worse. He started making that sound, that wheeze when he breathed." Marcus paused, reliving that terrible night. "Elena panicked. I put Miguel in the car, and we rushed to the hospital. On the way, he started turning blue around his mouth. I thought I was going to lose him right there in the back seat. It must have been desperate. It was the worst night of my life. We spent 8 hours in the emergency room. The doctors managed to stabilize him, but they said it was severe chronic asthma. They explained it would be a lifelong condition." Steph was absorbing every word. How did Elena react? She blamed herself. She kept researching on the internet if she had done something wrong during pregnancy, if it was because of something she ate. It took months to convince her it wasn't her fault. Marcus looked out the window, seeing a gardener tending to the bushes on Steph's property. You know what's most cruel? Miguel is a normal child. Intelligent, funny, loves basketball. Of course, he can't play because of his condition. But when he's well, you'd never say he has any problems. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, he's struggling to breathe. How many times have you had to leave work running? More than 50. Elena calls me in panic. I drop everything and run home or to the hospital. I've already lost 3 jobs because of this. That's when I started driving Uber. At least this way I'm my own boss. Steph shook his head. And financially, how did you get to this point? Marcus sighed deeply. The first hospitalization cost $8,000. We managed to pay in installments. The second was $12,000. By the third, we couldn't pay the installments from the previous ones anymore. Then the snowball started. Did you try to negotiate with the hospital? We tried everything. Aid programs, payment plans, loans. But when you owe $47,000, making $300 per day on good days, the math doesn't add up. Marcus stopped and looked directly at Steph. You know what kills me the most? It's not even the money. It's seeing my wife cry in secret. It's seeing Miguel ask why he can't run like other children. It's knowing that there's treatment that could give him a completely normal life, but not being able to afford it. Steph was visibly emotional. Marcus, tell me something. If you could solve everything today, pay off the debts, guarantee Miguel's treatment, what would you do? Marcus laughed, but it was a sad laugh. Man, I've thought about this 1,000 times. First, I'd pay all the medical bills. Second, I'd put Miguel with the best pediatric pulmonologist in California. Third, I'd buy all the medications he needs for the next 2 years. Fourth, I'd renovate our house to make it more suitable for his condition. Special air filters, flooring that doesn't accumulate allergens. And for you and Elena? I just wanted her to be able to sleep at night without worrying. I wanted to be able to work 8 hours a day like a normal person. I wanted to be able to take Miguel to see a Warriors game someday. Steph was quiet for several minutes, clearly processing everything he had heard. Marcus thought maybe he had talked too much. Sorry, Steph. I didn't mean to dump all my problems on you. No, man, don't apologize. I need to tell you something. Steph leaned forward. I grew up in Charlotte. My dad played in the NBA, but even so our family went through difficult times. I remember my mother crying in the kitchen when she thought no one was watching, worried about the bills. I remember wearing shoes with holes to school because we didn't have money to buy others. Marcus didn't expect this revelation. The difference is, I got lucky. Basketball gave me a way out. But listening to your story, Marcus, man, you're stronger than I ever was. You're fighting for your son every day, without any guarantee it's going to work out. Steph grabbed his phone and started doing something on it. Marcus, you said you need exactly how much to pay everything off and guarantee Miguel's treatment. Steph, I wasn't asking. I know you weren't, but I'm asking. Marcus hesitated. 59,000. 47 from the hospital. Debt, 7,200 from the overdue house payments, 3,500 for medications, and 1,300 to fix my car. Steph continued working on his phone for several minutes. Marcus couldn't see what he was doing. Marcus, you're an incredible father and a man of character. Miguel is lucky to have you as a father. Thank you, Steph. You don't know how much it meant to me to be able to talk about this. Sometimes I feel so alone in this fight. You're not alone, brother. Never forget that. Steph finished what he was doing on his phone and opened the car door. Steph, how much do I owe for the ride? It's paid in the app, don't worry. Steph grabbed his backpack, but before closing the door, he looked directly into Marcus's eyes. Marcus, when you get home, check your bank account, okay? Marcus was confused. Why? But Steph was already walking toward his mansion gate, waving over his shoulder. Take care on the road, brother, and hug Miguel, for me. Marcus drove back to Oakland in a state of shock, still processing the surreal conversation he had just had. Steph Curry had listened to his story, had genuinely cared, and for a few minutes, Marcus had felt less alone in his fight. But that comment about checking the bank account kept echoing in his mind. What did Steph mean by that? It was 12:30 in the afternoon when Marcus parked in front of his building in Oakland. Normally, he didn't come home in the middle of the day, but after that extraordinary morning, he needed to see his family. Elena opened the door as soon as she heard his footsteps in the hallway. Marcus, what are you doing here? Did something happen? Everything's fine, he said, hugging his wife. I just had a very strange morning. Miguel was sitting on the small living room sofa, playing with a tablet borrowed from school. He was breathing normally, a sound that Marcus never failed to be grateful for. Daddy, you came back early today. Marcus sat next to his son and hugged him tight. Yes, champ. I wanted to have lunch with you guys. How was work today? Asked Elena, sitting in the worn armchair on the other side of the room. Marcus looked at her, then at Miguel, and smiled. You guys won't believe who I picked up as a passenger today. Who? Miguel asked, excited. Steph Curry. Elena laughed. Oh, sure. And I had lunch with Beyoncé. Marcus grabbed his phone and showed the photo he had taken with Steph at the end of the ride. Elena's eyes widened. My God, Marcus, are you serious? Totally serious. We talked for 45 minutes. He's exactly like he seems on TV, humble, genuine. Miguel looked at the photo, impressed. Is he really nice, Daddy? Really nice. And you know what? He said for me to give you a hug from him. Miguel smiled radiantly while Marcus hugged him again. Elena was still looking at the photo, incredulous. This is incredible, Marcus. But does this help with our bills somehow? Marcus was about to answer when he remembered Steph's strange comment. Check your bank account when you get home. Actually, Marcus grabbed his phone. Steph said something strange. He told me to check my bank account when I got home. Elena frowned. Why would he say that? Marcus opened the bank app, expecting to see the usual negative balance. He always checked the balance with a tightness in his chest, knowing it would be in the red. The screen loaded. Marcus froze. The phone trembled in his hands. Balance. $58,653. This can't be right, he murmured. What is it? Elena asked, noticing the shock expression on her husband's face. Marcus closed the app and opened it again, thinking it was an error. The balance was still there. $58,653. With violently trembling hands, he clicked on the statement. There was a transfer made 30 minutes ago. Transfer received. $59,000. From Steph Curry. Description: for Miguel. With love. SC. The phone slipped from Marcus's hands and fell to the floor. Marcus! Elena screamed, running to pick up the phone. When she saw the screen, she also froze. What? How? Marcus, what is this? Marcus couldn't speak. His hands were shaking uncontrollably. He tried to get up, but his legs failed. Elena picked up the phone and read the statement again. $59,000, she whispered. Marcus, he gave us $59,000. Miguel noticing that something extraordinary was happening, approached his parents. "Mommy, Daddy, why are you crying?" That's when Marcus broke down. 3 years of tension, fear, sleepless nights, and silent despair exploded in uncontrolled sobs. He cried like he hadn't cried since childhood. A mixture of overwhelming relief, infinite gratitude, total disbelief, and pure happiness. Elena was also crying, hugging Marcus and Miguel at the same time. "Miguel is saved," she repeated, through tears. "Miguel is saved." Miguel, not completely understanding what was happening, but feeling his parents' emotion, also started crying. "Daddy, are you okay?" Marcus picked up his son, still sobbing. "I'm more than okay, champ. An angel helped us. You're going to be fine. You're going to have all the medicines you need. We're going to take you to the best doctor. You're going to be fine." Marcus's phone rang. It was Steph Curry. With his voice completely choked up, Marcus answered. "Steph? Did you check the account?" Marcus could barely speak. "Steph, why?" "Because you're an incredible father fighting for your son. Because Miguel deserves to have a chance. Because sometimes God puts people in our lives at the exact moment we need them. I can't accept this. You can and will accept it. Use it to pay off the hospital debts. Use it for Miguel's treatment. Use it for your family. You deserve it." Marcus was crying so much he could barely hold the phone. How can I thank you? Keep being the incredible father you are. Take care of Miguel. Take care of Elena. And take care of yourself on the road, brother. Steph, I don't know how. You don't need to say anything, Marcus. Just promise me one thing. Anything. When Miguel is well, when he can run and play like any child, remind him that there's goodness in the world. And someday, when you can, be that goodness in someone else's life. Marcus was sobbing so much that Elena had to hold the phone for him. "Steph," she said through tears, "I'm Elena, Marcus's wife. We have no words to thank you. You saved our family. Elena, take care of yourselves. Miguel is a lucky boy to have parents like you." After Steph hung up, the family stayed hugged on the sofa for almost an hour, crying, laughing, still trying to believe what had happened. Elena was the first to pull herself together. "Marcus, we need to call the hospital. Schedule the appointments Miguel needs. And the bank," said Marcus, "to pay off the mortgage." "And Dr. Patterson," continued Elena, referring to the pediatric pulmonologist they had never been able to afford. "We can finally take Miguel there." Miguel, who had stayed quiet during his parents' conversation, finally asked, "Does this mean I won't have crises anymore?" Marcus took his son's small face in his hands. "It means we're going to do everything possible for you to be well, champ. We're going to have the best doctors, the best medicines. You'll be able to run, play, maybe even play basketball." "Like Steph Curry?" Marcus smiled through tears. "Exactly like Steph Curry." That afternoon, while Elena made calls to schedule appointments and negotiate debts, Marcus sat by the apartment window, looking at the Oakland streets where he had fought so hard to support his family. He thought about the conversation with Steph, about how a stranger had cared so much about his story that he completely changed their lives. He thought about how, in a matter of hours, they had gone from despair to hope. Miguel approached and sat next to his father by the window. "Daddy, is Steph Curry a superhero?" Marcus hugged his son and smiled. "You know what, Miguel? I think so. But not the kind that flies or has special powers. He's the kind that has the power to change lives. When I grow up, I want to be like him. And you will be, champ." you will be. That night, for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Rodriguez slept in peace. Not because his problems had completely disappeared, but because now he had hope. And sometimes, hope is all a family needs to start over. 3 months later, Miguel Rodriguez was running in the backyard of their new house in a better Oakland neighborhood, laughing and playing like any healthy child. His asthma crises had become rare and controllable, thanks to adequate treatment. Marcus still drove Uber, but now by choice, not out of desperation. Elena had returned to working full-time as a medical receptionist, and every night, before sleeping, the family said a prayer of gratitude for the angel who had crossed their path. Marcus never forgot the promise he made to Steph Curry. 2 years later, when he found a Hispanic family at the hospital with a situation similar to what he had lived through, Marcus discreetly paid their medical bill. It wasn't a millionaire amount like the one he had received, but it was what he could do. And when the family's mother asked why he had done that, Marcus simply smiled and said, "Because someone once taught me that sometimes we are placed in people's lives at the exact moment they need us most." Kindness, Marcus had learned, is like a chain. Once you receive it, your only obligation is to pass it forward. And that's exactly what he did for the rest of his life. This story reminds us that small gestures of humanity can change entire lives, and that sometimes angels walk among us disguised as ordinary people who simply choose to make a difference.